In the weeks leading up to her disappearance, Brianna Maitland was living in a pressure cooker. At just 17, she was balancing adult responsibilities with teenage turbulence, working 2 jobs, studying for her GED, bouncing between friends' couches, and navigating volatile relationships that seemed to simmer with jealousy and friction. And then came push to shove. In February 2004, just 1 month before Brianna vanished, she was assaulted by a former friend, Keallie Lacross, during a party in Sheldon. Witnesses say it started over a boy. Nothing unusual, except this argument didn't end with raised voices or cold shoulders. It ended with a broken nose, a concussion, and Brianna pressing charges that would vanish almost as quickly as she did. Police eventually cleared Lacrosse from any involvement in Brianna's disappearance, citing alibis and lack of evidence, but the timing is hard to ignore. And an assault weeks before she went missing, a known offender, and a victim whose life was already unstable. Was it just bad blood? Or a thread that still deserves pulling? Today, we'll explore the conflicts in Brianna's orbit, the tensions with Keallie, her behavior during that strange shopping trip with her mother, and this unstable patchwork of friends, boyfriends, and housemates that formed her world in those final days. This is Jealousy, Violence, and the Ones We Let Too Close, where jealousy turns violent, friendships fracture, and the truth gets harder to pin down the more you try to hold it still. Hey, Angela, how's it going tonight?
Hey, John, it's going okay. Just okay.
I just almost said we reached the end of the week, but actually we're just getting started in the week.
It's the second Monday of the week.
Yeah, this Tuesday thing confuses me.
I'm sorry.
I never know what day of the week it is anyway, so it doesn't really matter to me, but...
It's like whenever she shows up, it must be today.
Yep, that's pretty much how it is. So what are your thoughts on this case so far? We kind of gave the layout of Brianna's life and all that kind of stuff. We talked about the weird-ass scene where her car was left halfway into a barn. We talked about the drug connections and the shitheads and douchebags that were in her life at the time. And so what are your thoughts on all this?
I'm confused. I'm annoyed. I'm frustrated. I need more.
Yeah.
If I was her parent, it would be worse.
Oh, God, I can't even imagine. I really cannot even imagine.
Yeah.
You know, this case is so much different than any, honestly, that we've covered so far, because the deeper I get into it, the less I know. It's like the more I know, the less I know.
Yeah.
It's the most frustrating freaking case. You know, even with Maura's case, as we were investigating it and kind of going through it, I felt, at least for myself, more and more confident in kind of the direction I was leaning by the end of it. Yeah. This case is not that way.
It's just weird.
It's like I go down one rabbit hole and I feel pretty confident in it, and then I find a whole bunch of shit that just blows it out of the water, and then you start in another rabbit hole and you do exactly the same thing, and there's, I don't know, somewhere around 750 million players in this whole story. You can't get your head wrapped around them all.
And one rabbit hole connects and you get kind of excited, and then all of a sudden it caves in.
Exactly. I can't imagine how frustrating this must be for her family, for her loved ones, for the private investigators that have been chasing this trail for over 20 freaking years, nearly 20 years. I mean, it's just nuts.
Heartbreakingly, frustratingly sad.
Yeah. It really is. And it's so unique in the story for that very reason, because most of these, I would say every one of them, the more you research them, at least you get a feeling. Now, that doesn't mean shit.
Right.
It certainly doesn't mean we can prove anything, but by the time you get to the end of these unsolved ones, most of them, you know, like with our Rocky Mountain Reckoning episodes, at least you've got a whole bunch of shitheads that are running around.
Right.
You figure it's probably one of them, you know? And in a lot of the cases that we've covered, we know who it is. but this one is just so strange.
It really is. So many people focus on the car or the barn, but when a teenager disappears, her relationships matter. Her emotional life matters. Do we know if Brianna was scared of Keallie Lacross? Did she ever say anything about feeling unsafe?
That's one of the questions that keeps haunting this case, because when someone drops out of sight, we always start with the people that are closest to them. And in Brianna's case, the circle wasn't just tight, it was turbulent. So this one today is going to be another freaking gut punch, just like every one of them in her story so far. Are you ready for that?
I didn't bring my armor.
You're going to need it.
I didn't bring it, so we'll see. Let's go.
Let's do it. So, welcome back, listeners, to Dark Dialogue, the podcast where we unravel the shadows of the human mind and dive deep into the mysteries that haunt small towns and big cities alike. I'm your host, John.
And I'm Angela, and together we shine a light on the stories that still don't sit right. The ones where the official version doesn't line up with what we actually see.
So last episode, we peeled back the layers of the crime scene, the missing girl, the car in the barn, the failures that stained those first few days. But this time, we're pulling back even further, because long before Brianna disappeared, she was in danger.
This is episode 4, Jealousy, Violence, and the Ones We Let Get Too Close. We're diving into the February 2004 assault that left Brianna with a broken nose and a concussion just weeks before she vanished. The girl who attacked her, someone she knew, and someone she once called a friend.
Keallie Lacross, a party, a fist to the face, a grudge over a boy. Police say she's been cleared, but the timing is hard to ignore, especially when you factor in Brianna's emotional state the day she disappeared. Shaken, distracted, and maybe, just maybe, spooked by something she saw.
We'll walk you through that assault, the charges Brianna filed, and the questions they leave in their wake. But we're also going to explore the people in her orbit, the boyfriends, the friends, the places she stayed when she wasn't safe at home. This is about more than one fight. It's about the danger that comes when personal chaos spills into real-world violence.
So grab your headphones, pour something strong, and take a breath, because this episode walks the line between everyday drama and something much darker. This is Dark Dialogue. Let's step into the aftermath. We got to talk about this fight, obviously.
Okay.
That's kind of what we're here to talk about tonight. So, in late February of 2004, about 3 weeks before Brianna disappeared, she was assaulted by Keallie Lacross at a party in Franklin County. And this case drives me crazy.
I know.
But as near as I can figure, the fight stemmed from, well, Keallie Lacross had gone out of town, I think in January, early February, late January, sometime around in there.
Okay.
And apparently Brianna had stayed with Keallie's boyfriend in his house. And as near as I could figure, that was a kid by the name of Michael Stebbins.
Okay.
Now, James Robitaille, the other boyfriend, is also depending on which source, is also listed as this boyfriend that they were fighting over. But I find a lot more sources and a lot more credible sources that say that it was Michael Stebbins. So I feel pretty confident that it was Michael Stebbins, but this group is really no different than any other teenage group.
No.
They're trading boyfriends and girlfriends all the freaking time.
Yep.
You can't keep track of who's dating who's with who hates who. I mean, we kind of mentioned that last week, with having daughters. It's like, okay, so you hate each other this week, like each other that week. And, with the whole love scene, it's pretty much the same. And you're talking a little worse. And you're talking about a rural area with not many people living in it.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of boys to go around and a lot of girls to go around. So
there's a lot of recycling in situations.
There is a lot of recycling, especially in small towns.
Yeah.
You get that. It's normal.
Mm-hmm.
So Michael Stebbins has been referred to as an ex-boyfriend of Brianna. I couldn't confirm that. I could confirm that James Robitaille was her ex-boyfriend, but it sounds to me like, as near as I can figure, Brianna stayed with Michael Stebbins while Keallie was out of town, and they quote unquote spent time together. I'll let you guys all decide what the hell that means. It's really not relevant. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter if they slept together or didn't sleep together or what happened, because whatever happened, it was enough that Keallie got jealous and got pissed off, and then they all ended up at this party on or around February 27th of 2004. I couldn't find the exact date, but it was right around that time. And so they all go to this party, and I think that James Robitaille brings Brianna in his truck. So they're at the party. Keallie confronts Brianna and tries to start a fight with her. And Brianna just says, "I'm not going to fight you." And I mean, anybody that's been around a high school party or anything, you can see this shit play out. I mean, it used to play out at every party, every time. Somebody was going to fight with somebody, and it was all, let's go, let's go. I ain't going to fight you. Come on, I want to fight you. This whole back and forth bullshit.
Name calling.
Yeah. So that is exactly what's going on here. And so Brianna apparently is just like, I'm not dealing with this shit. And so she goes and sits in James Robitaille's truck. And then Keallie and another girl come out to the truck to continue this harassment.
But not the guy she stayed with, not Kealie's boyfriend, a different guy's truck.
Yes.
Okay.
Brianna's ex-boyfriend.
Making sure I'm still on the same page.
Well, good luck, because I'm not on the same page, and I'm telling the story. So I've got to correct something I said just a minute ago, because it wasn't true. Actually, James Robitaille was also involved with both girls. So because
tangled webs we weave.
It's such a mess, and I say that because Brianna was living with James Robitaille's grandparents, I think, family members, and they got upset with her because she was hitting on James while he was dating Keallie.
Okay.
At least that's one version. Who the hell knows? But I think that at some point that was the case.
That was the theme of the last episode. Carried it over to this one? Who the hell knows?
It's this case.
Okay.
And so I think at some point, well, I know Brianna was dating James Robitaille at some point. Then they broke up. Then I think James Robitaille and Keallie Lacross started dating. And that's when Brianna was living with James Robitaille's grandparents. And then they got upset with her because she kept hitting on James. And so she had to leave and go find a different place to live. Somewhere in that mix, Keallie and James must have broken up, and she must have started dating Michael Stebbins, who then Brianna spent time with while Keallie was out of town, which leads us to this bullshit party and this fight.
My cousin's roommates, uncle's college. I mean, help me.
I wish I could, but I'm not even joking. The farther you dig, the more confused you get in just trying to figure all this bullshit out. And then the other really hard thing is so many places don't name names, which if I'm able to...
Unidentified friend, yeah.
Well, no, they say like MSKR.
Gotcha.
And so then you're trying to decipher all of the different acronyms and what means what and all this. And, I'm not going to throw anybody's name out there that hasn't been named publicly.
Right.
That's not up to us to do.
No.
But none of these names that I'm talking about are difficult to figure out. They're all over the freaking place. So,
well, let me just publicly thank you for how deep you get into the rabbit holes for us.
Well, I try, but I wish I could come out on the other side with a few more answers than I'm able to in this case, but...
Or at least carrots. Come on.
Yeah, and the hard part of it is I want to be as honest and forthright as possible. And so it would be really easy to just come up with a story that's pieced together and tell it. And maybe that's a more entertaining way to do it, probably is. But I think it's dishonest because you come off as though you know what happened.
Or we don't find answers that way.
Exactly. And so I would rather just be honest and be like, it's a freaking shit show. It's a shit. It's the same shit show as in every high school age, 17, 18-year-old friend and love life.
Yeah.
They're all a shit show.
Yeah.
And so this one is no different. The only thing that sets this one apart is, unfortunately, Brianna ends up disappearing out of it.
Yeah.
But I think if you were diving into pretty much any high school age relationship circle, it's the same confusing mess.
Some people date the same guy in the same night.
Right. Yes. So, near as I can figure, Brianna and Keallie were all part of kind of the same social circle of kids that had gone to Enosburg Falls High School. And that was, if you remember, that's the school that she moved to after, and then she ended up quitting there. And it sounds like a lot of the same kind of bullshit, bullying and stuff was going on in that one.
She seemed to be a target for that, unfortunately.
Yeah, she really did. I mean, her dad would say in an interview that I was listening to that, she was a very pretty girl. And,
yeah, she was.
That breeds some jealousy and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I also, the more I've learned about her, she seems like she was kind of quiet, reserved, not really high self-esteem. And we'll be talking about that tonight. I've mentioned it in previous episodes. And so those personalities, when you're, better looking than a lot of the people that you're going to school with, right, especially with girls, it seems to be a lot worse with girls. They get jealous. And
I was the girl one.
They start bickering and stuff like that. They attack somebody that's, and I'm not saying like the female gender.
Oh, I know. I know.
But the high school age, cliquey, kind of mean girls bullshit, it really does go down that way. So she was a pretty girl. She was also a new girl to the school, at least, which is not helpful. But this group of friends included Katie Manning, Megan Jefferson, Sydney Kuhn, Hillary Robitaille, which I think is James's sister, younger sister, and then obviously, Michael Stebbins fits in there. I think that he was a couple years older than this group of girls. Mm-hmm. How it goes. They're 17, he's 19, or they're 18, he's 20, or, it's nothing out of the ordinary at all. Okay. And so, but what we do know is Keallie Lacross grabbed one of her friends and went out to James Robitaille's truck where Brianna was sitting and got her to roll down the window and then punched her, from what I can understand, twice. And, there's pictures of her out there. I've showed you pictures of her. She's pretty freaking jacked up. And I've seen it in multiple different places. I've listened to several different podcasts. I've seen different things on YouTube. I've seen a whole bunch of different people say that there's absolutely no way you could end up with those injuries from two punches. Let me tell you, from somebody that's been punched in the face, you could end up with those injuries from one punch.
Right.
You break somebody's nose, they immediately have two black eyes. Yeah. Period.
Yeah.
And you can easily break somebody's nose with a single punch. So
They teach girls how to do it in self-defense.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah. And if you square off and hit somebody in the nose and it breaks, they have two black eyes. I don't think I've ever seen anybody get a broken nose that didn't have two black eyes like she did.
Yeah.
And then a concussion, which again, if you're getting punched in the head, even one time, a concussion is not that unusual. I mean, I've banged my head a few different times, just once, and ended up with a concussion out of it. It's just not that unusual.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of how your head reacts to the blow. But, you know, if you're not ready for it and your head flies back like in a whiplash motion, you could very easily end up with a concussion from that. So it's not that important, but
it's possible.
I do want to stress that in no way does her injuries tell us how this fight went, because it could have been a single punch. Lacrosse says it was 2. Okay, very easily could have been. You know,
she's the one throwing them, and she said 2. I'd go with 2.
Well, you know, it's just the thing. But if you're looking at it and she's lying, then, and that's very possible. But if you know, Brianna had been hit multiple times, I would expect a whole lot more injuries. I would expect her to have injuries to the sides of her face. I would expect her to have bruising on, you know, her chest.
Because I see her wailing.
Well, that's typically what you envision, you know. And from what I understand, she never got out of the truck. And so I think Keallie probably got one good lick in, like one solid punch. And then Brianna probably pulled away from her. The second punch probably didn't do that much damage.
Or it hit the window because she was rolling it up.
Well, that's my point, is you're trying to punch through the truck window.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like you're on top of somebody that's laying on the ground and you can just pummel them. So I don't know. It's really neither here nor there, but I don't think that you can look at her injuries and just say, oh, that was definitely hit more than one time. And then we've talked about Brianna being in jiu-jitsu and being able to kick Keallie's ass. And I'm even confused about that. So most of the things that you read says that, you know, she had been in jiu-jitsu for a while and was really good at it and stuff like that. But then I was listening to an interview with Bruce that said she'd been in it for like 6 months. So I don't even know how long she was in jiu-jitsu. I don't even know really anything, but likely she had learned, you know, to defend herself. And she definitely, no matter what, she could have put up a fight, but apparently she didn't fight back at all.
Well, aren't they also taught that they have to be very careful when they're being trained and stuff like that, because you can get in more trouble?
Well, they really stress that you only use it in self-defense.
Yeah.
This definitely would have qualified as self-defense. I don't know any martial arts instructor that would have said, yes, you need to sit there and get punched in the face multiple times.
Right.
That's kind of what it's for.
I get it, but I mean...
But yeah, they do stress, you know, that you need to make absolutely sure that it's legitimate self-defense. It's very much like carrying a firearm. You know, I mean, you can't just shoot anybody that makes you mad.
Right.
You know, you have to have a legitimate threat to your life. If you're trained in martial arts, there has to be a legitimate threat to you, or you shouldn't use it.
Because you're most dangerous to people who aren't trained. Yeah.
Yep. And so, you know, I have no doubt that she could have, even if it was just 6 months, I'm sure that she'd learned some throws and stuff.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu is mostly grappling and throws, that kind of stuff, as opposed to like the punching and kicking, taekwondo and that.
It's the moving of people.
It's more on the ground.
Yeah.
And it's freaking brutal, man. I've done it and I am not in good enough shape. They made me do like
I'm not in good enough shape.
Korean freaking death crawl thing across the mats, and when I got done with that, I was like, okay, I'm out.
I'm done. I've had my quota.
It's you know, it's really popular with the military right now. It's really popular with law enforcement. You know, the jiu-jitsu gym here is ran by a guy that's law enforcement, and you know, so it's very, very useful in real life situations. And, you know, not to offend like anybody that's in taekwondo or anything, but jiu-jitsu is really more geared to real life street fighting as opposed to, you know, like a match where you're shooting for points. Jiu-jitsu is like trying to get somebody on the ground and subdue them before they can hurt you.
Gotcha.
So she no doubt would have had some skills in that area, but she chose not to use them. And her mom, Keallie, would later ask her why. And she said that she didn't want anybody to not like her, which from that, that is the phrase that I really take, that she maybe had some self-esteem issues, and was really wanting a friend group, wanting to fit in, and maybe had struggled with that a little bit. Because to me, that statement says a lot. I'm willing to get punched in the face, have my nose broken, get a concussion to have people like me. That really says a lot,
That's sad.
And
that
so,
hurts.
Yeah. And so her friend Jillian, and apparently it picked her up, or I don't know, Brianna ended up with her, and they couldn't get her nose to stop bleeding. So she took her to the hospital, which, if you have a broken nose, that does not surprise me one little bit. It's a bloody damn mess is what it is. And it's really hard to get that bleeding to stop. So she went.
Noses bleed just insane.
Yeah.
They just will not stop.
Yeah. And then, when you've taken a blow like that and a broken nose, they bleed for a long time. So, and then I think both probably Keallie and Brianna's good friends were trying to convince her to file a complaint against Keallie for this, which she then ended up doing. And so she filed assault charges against Keallie, and Keallie was charged for that, and it was, making its way through the court system. So to sum it all up, this comes out of a teenage love triangle mess, and Keallie got pissed off, and Keallie confronted Brianna, and the rest is history. Like I said, Brianna went ahead and filed charges on Keallie, and the charges were pending, but they were dropped on April 9th of 2004. So remember that Brianna went missing on March the 19th. So by about less than a month later, April 9th, those charges were dropped. And the Maitlands, from what I understand, they weren't very happy about those charges being dropped. It is a fact, however, that in the American justice system, you have the right to face your accuser. So if your accuser isn't available to go to court, then they can't proceed with the charges.
Yeah.
And so I understand why the charges were dropped. And then Keallie had made at least one, and if not several different comments that were pretty freaking crass and callous, of when asked what's happening with the charges, and she was like, well, nothing, because she's gone now, which definitely draws suspicion her way. And it's a pretty freaking shitty thing to say.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit if it's your worst enemy. I've been in fights. I've had people that I just didn't like at all, but if they go missing, if something tragic and bad happens to them, then
they're still human and people still love them.
Right. I don't wish that on anybody. I've never have been wired that way. Even when I was younger and was, fighting a lot more, obviously have to actually fight to, I haven't been in a fight in like freaking near 30 years, but
to keep it that way.
Well, me too. But back in the day, I fought a lot. It was commonplace.
Yeah.
But never with like malicious intention, and never would I have made a comment like that. So, I do think that was pretty crass and callous and completely out of line. But it doesn't mean that she's guilty.
Right. It's shady, but shade doesn't mean guilt.
Yeah, it's shitty, and quite frankly, I think Keallie Lacross is a shitty person. At least I have no idea where she is now. I don't know what she's doing now. I think that you could make the comment about a lot of 17, 18-year-olds that they're shitty people. And I think her shittiness lasted into her 20s, and I'll be explaining why. But I mean, I don't know where she's at now. I mean, maybe she's growing up and is a really good contributing member of society.
Out of just not looking because it wasn't relevant, or there's nothing to find?
What now?
You don't know where she is because you didn't look because it's not as relevant?
Exactly, because there's no information on any freaking people in this story, even if they've been to prison. You can't find shit
It's just scrubbed, and who knows?
I don't know if Vermont has like really tightly controlled public information laws, or
they just don't record it, maybe? Who knows?
I don't know. It's kind of weird because
somebody from Vermont, please tell us.
You know, when you're talking about like drug dealers and, you know, the bottom of the barrel of society, you can usually find we talked about this last week, but you can usually find all kinds of court records and shit about them. But in this case, man, it's really hard to figure out where these people are.
In our first case, you found all the court documents from our defendant's mom. Even.
Oh, yeah, the Lori Bray case. Yeah.
So
it's all public information.
Yeah.
It's easy to find. It's easy to track these people down when they're in the court system.
Yeah. So what's going on in Vermont?
I don't know, because it's totally freaking different. So, you know, as you go, as you dig into this case and you start, you know, following the rabbit holes and all of that are involved in it, I mean, Keallie Lacross comes up a lot. A lot of people think that she's the one that killed her or had her killed, or whatever the case may be. And I can't say one way or the other, but what I can say is it is a tremendous leap from a fight at a high school party over jealousy over a boy to murder.
Yeah.
That's a really, really big leap.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, like I just said, I fought quite a bit. I mean, I got kicked off the bus in kindergarten for fighting.
No.
So I started almost, and I mean, that's just how it was when I was growing up. It was very normal. We fought all the time.
You think you know someone.
Yeah, well, if you didn't know that about me, you really didn't know me.
I didn't know you fought in kindergarten. You were a couple years ahead of me. Wasn't there yet.
Hell yes, yeah. I got kicked off the bus in kindergarten for fighting, but I was defending my sister, so I didn't get in trouble for that.
That's okay.
I beat the crap out of a 6th grader, so.
Good job.
And then through elementary school, I fought all the time. It was, I mean, my principal freaking hated to see me even walk into his office. And that was back when they had paddles, and I became intimately familiar with his paddle. I fought all the time, and we all did. It wasn't just me. It was all of us.
I know.
It was normal. And then you'd go beat the crap out of each other, and then you'd be best friends and run around the playground, and it'd be all water under the bridge, and then the next person, and you'd fight. And it just was normal.
The guy you fought yesterday would help you gang up on the guy tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, you know, as I got older, it became less and less common, but I did fight through high school as well. And you know, I stop and think about some of those fights that I got into, and some of them, I mean, I had the crap kicked out of me. I beat the crap out of other kids. And if something would have happened to them after that, I would have been looked at like I was the killer.
Yeah.
I was the reason.
Yeah.
And one doesn't necessarily equate to the other. Just because you got into a fight doesn't mean that you're then willing to kill somebody. And I'm certainly not giving Keallie a free pass. We're going to be talking about her because she took things a bit farther than I did in my life. So yeah, it's not that simple, but I am just saying that one does not equal the other.
Exactly.
You can get into a fight and not want somebody to die all at the same time.
Because you also don't want their family hurt, and it's...
Well, yeah, there's a big difference between like beating somebody's ass and killing them.
Exactly.
I mean, a huge difference.
Yeah.
You know, I think that in my generation, I know things are completely different now. Like, my kids never got into
I don't even know what's going on out there right now.
Well, I don't think fighting is near as common as it used to be. My kids...
Cyberbullying is terrible.
Well, the whole bullying thing for sure. And I mean, you can get me on a soapbox about that, because I think that if kids would fight more, we wouldn't have the rest of this shit. Because if it was okay for a kid to go to school, drag somebody outside and beat the piss out of them for talking shit on Facebook, then you wouldn't have so many people wanting to commit suicide and stuff because they can't take the bullying.
Exactly.
I mean, I realize that's probably an unpopular opinion, but well, when I was a kid, if somebody bullied somebody else, then, I mean, there was a lot of times that was the reason that I fought, was because somebody was bullying somebody else, and I stepped in and said, this shit ain't gonna happen. But other kids would do the same thing. I certainly wasn't the only one there. Or somebody would bully you until you've had your gut full of it, and then you beat the shit out of them, and they never bother you again. And we've taken all of that away to now you just have all this aggression that just builds up in these kids, and there's no way for them to get rid of it because they'll go to jail. They'll go to jail.
Go to school,
Well, I mean, if they did the shit that I did when I was a kid, they'd go to jail. And so they don't, and that just builds up until something worse happens. I mean, that's a long conversation. We could go all night on the societal problem that leads to all that bad shit. But all I'm saying is that it was very common. And this group of kids weren't that much younger than me, honestly. I think that, if I'm just going off of memory, but I think Brianna was born in 87. So roughly 10 years younger than me. So 2004 was a lot different than 2025 too. So it might have been a lot more common in 2004 for there to be a high school party and stuff. And, you know, the younger generation that's listening to me, they might not even know what the hell I'm talking about, because I just don't think it happens like it used to. But back then, it was, like I said, every freaking party, somebody got into a fight. It was common. It was all the damn time. So
one or two at least.
It's never always. So, and then we have Michael Stebbins, who obviously is her boyfriend, and he kind of gets roped into this whole thing, and there's some fishy shit with him. He was also heavy into the drug scene, from what I can understand, at least as a user. And I've mentioned it at least on one other episode, if not a couple, but his family is the one that owned the pig farm that supposedly her body was disposed of at. And, you know, they searched it, but they didn't find anything, and the family refused to let them search anywhere else. And then there's a rumor that Keallie Lacross apparently told her friends that Brianna is no more, which fuels suspicion. But there's rumors on every corner in this freaking story, and without being able to talk to somebody that heard her say that, other than it's in a Reddit thread somewhere, it could have happened, but it might not have happened too. There's literally nothing out there to make me say, okay, yeah, for sure this happened. Now, I will say that, you know, I've watched multiple interviews with Jillian Stout, who was her friend that she was living with. And Jillian Stout did say that she talked to Keallie about the charges, and Keallie said, well, they're not going anywhere because she's gone. So that one I put a lot of faith in, because we have an actual human person that's willing to stand up there and say, this is what she said to me. And so that counts for a whole hell of a lot more than public rumor or something that shows up on Reddit. And it's really crazy when you get into these Reddit rabbit holes, I guess, you know, and the number of people, and I mentioned this last week, so sorry that I'm repeating myself, but it's just insane, the number of people like, I know exactly what happened. This is what happened. And you'll read 12 of those, and all 12 of them will be 12 completely different things. And so you're like, well, either you're all wrong or one of you's right and the rest is you wrong, because you can't all be right.
Or one tiny part in each one of it is right.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's also the rumor that Michael Stebbins possibly was driving by the Dutchborn house when Brianna's car was there on March 20th. But I could find nothing to confirm that. Again, nothing more than just a rumor. We know James Robitaille did. And a lot of this shit, I have to wonder if it's confusion between who's who in this story. Because, like I said, I'm confused. You're confused. Everybody's confused. So it's possible that because James Robitaille definitely did drive by, what he did, we're probably never going to know because he's deceased now. It sounds like he drove by, saw the doors open, lights on, closed the doors, shut off the lights, and went home. Mm-hmm. And that draws a lot of suspicion onto him. And so it's possible that somebody gets that story wrong and mentions Michael Stebbins is the one that drove by. It's possible he did drive by because it is kind of a main thoroughfare right through that part of town.
Right.
Or, through that area of Vermont, I mean, from going from one town to another. So maybe he did drive by. Who the hell knows? I'm just reporting all the different shit that I've heard. And I'll let you know if there's anything that I can say is true or not true, but so far, a lot of it is just
on the fence.
Rumor and innuendo. But Bruce and Keallie Maitland both have come out and they've said that they don't put a lot of faith or a lot of credence into the assault's significance into the case. They think it was an isolated incident and that it's not directly tied to her disappearance. I tend to come out the same way. Keallie has been investigated pretty extensively by the Vermont State Police, by the FBI, and there's really nothing. And in my personal opinion, I think that whatever caused Brianna's disappearance was caused by more than one person. I do not believe for a second that Keallie Lacross could have pulled it off by herself. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of difference between being at a party where somebody's wanting to fight you and refusing to fight, and somebody trying to kidnap you and assault you on a dark road in the middle of the night and you not fight back and try to save yourself. There's a big difference there.
Yeah.
And so I think that she would have almost certainly had to have had help. Now, could it be like one of these weird ass, like in the Heather Elvis case, one of these weird ass things where you've got, in Heather Elvis's case, you've got Tammy Moore, who I think told Sydney Moore, you need to get rid of this girl because you've cheated on me with her. She's got to go. These stories I've heard numerous times. I'm sure you have too. Mm. There's tons of them out there where there's an affair or there's some cheating or something, and so the girl tells the guy, well, you've got to kill him now because you cheated. So could it be something like that? I suppose maybe it could be, but that's totally speculation. There's no evidence whatsoever to support that. The fact that the police and the FBI have pretty much come out and said, we've cleared these people, they don't have any role in this, I think that's got to count for something. I mean, we've said in throughout this episode or these episodes that the Vermont State Police completely dropped the ball, bungled this investigation. It's an absolute shit show at the beginning. And for a little while in the beginning. But then I've also said that, I don't know the players in this case, but the private investigators, Lou Berry and Greg Overacker, they do. And they've come out and they've said that these are really solid investigators. They're really good. Every time that we take them a lead, they jump on it. They follow it through. They don't tell us what they find or not, but they're on it. We have a lot of faith in them. They're good investigators. They've had the same kind of statements about the FBI. So if the police are saying that we just don't think that they're involved. I think that's gotta count for something. Now, have the police ever been wrong? Yeah. More than once.
Yeah.
So is it possible? It's possible, but I just don't know. Last week we covered the whole drug angle, and then in investigating this week's episode, I come across yet another name, which I've got to mention. Yeah, which is part of this whole drug angle thing. He should have been included last week, but I didn't find anything about him until I was investigating for this week, which is insane because you would think,
that was going to happen.
Oh, shit. It's such a freaking nightmare with this case. So the guy's name is Aaron Pendergrass. And
there's a lot of cool names in this story.
From what I understand, this guy was a major drug kingpin in northwestern Vermont and was arrested in 2010 for major drug distribution. And as far as I know, well, he might be out of prison now, but in 2010, I think he was sentenced to like 10 or 15 years or something like that for, major drug dealing in the area. So he was in prison for quite some time, but I just see him mentioned, and there's a few different places where I saw him thrown out as a name that could be involved, but I can find absolutely nothing linking him to it whatsoever. And so I don't consider him any kind of a suspect without some additional information. He's kind of like that Joker shit brain that we talked about last week.
Yeah.
Jorge Soto. Yeah, he's a douchebag. Yeah, he's a worthless piece of shit. He's a drug dealer. But that doesn't mean that he's involved. Just because he's a drug dealer in the area does not mean that he had anything to do with this assault. And my own personal feelings are, the one thing that I do feel pretty comfortable in is she knew whoever took her, whoever made her disappear. I think it's very, very likely that somebody told her, hey, meet me at the Dutchborn property. I have something for you or whatever. I think it's very clear that the Dutchborn property was not a party house. It was not a meeting house. It was not a place that kids hung out a lot.
Yeah, it was probably in the middle. In the middle.
Well, it was definitely on her way home. And it's a place that would stand out. It's an abandoned property right off the side of the road. There was a pretty large pole out right in front of where her car was found. And from what I understand, that's where the Dutchburns always parked when they lived there. So it's kind of like a pretty good sized parking area that kind of would lead either to the house or out to the field. And so it's just a big dirt parking area.
Right.
So it's a great place to meet up with somebody. I've heard speculation a lot, actually, speculation that they were there to shoot up because of the lime that was found on the tailgate. I find that less likely. I don't understand the point of that. First of all, it's 8 degrees in northern Vermont in February. It's colder than shit out. I don't see the point in stopping on the side of the road to shoot up and then drive home. It doesn't make any sense to me. These places all seem like they're almost part of the same town, which we have a little bit of that here, in that you have 20 miles between towns, but kids end up partying in both of the towns, so driving from one town to the other is like no big deal at all.
Right.
So we know that Brianna was headed home. We also know that her roommate was out of town. Brianna had the house to herself. So why wouldn't she just go home and shoot up if that's what I was going to do,
Yeah.
And I've seen no indication whatsoever that she was using drugs intravenously. I think that I've been very clear that she was definitely a drug user, but that's a different level of drug use. When you go from smoking or snorting to shooting up, that's a big damn step.
And how the hell does citrus juice not hurt? when it's being used to shoot up. Am I understanding that correctly? Like they're actually putting it with citrus juice and shooting it up.
Yeah, from what I understand,
That's painful as hell.
The acid in the citrus like helps break down the cocaine, so it makes it more liquid. And
what?
But I also heard it. Well, multiple people said it's like way less than ideal. It's a dirty way to do it. It's not the way that people like to do it. And
they'll get the job done if they need it.
Right.
Okay.
But
just ever since you said that, the last few episodes, I'm like, who's putting citrus juice in their veins? Because that just,
Well, that's just the thing. And, so it's something that I could see, like if I'll be just frank as can be. I don't know the first thing about shooting up drugs. So I'm completely talking out of his ass here.
Same here.
But, it's kind of, in my opinion, it would be kind of like, well, you have some weed that you want to smoke. You don't have a pipe, so you do the old soda can trick and do that, or you do the apple trick and do that because you have nothing around, But if you're meeting somebody specifically to smoke pot, you're probably going to bring a utensil to smoke with, right? Mm-hmm. If you're meeting up with somebody specifically to shoot up crack, you're going to bring whatever tools that is. I don't have the slightest freaking clue.
Right.
For me, when it comes to shooting up drugs, I know the after effects of it because I've picked them up on the ambulance when it goes bad. And I know what I've seen on TV where they take the little spoon and bend it around and do the lighter. As far as like what they mix up and all their little chemistry project to make all the magic happen, don't know the first thing about it.
Me either. Don't want to.
But I find it unusual, to say the least, that you're going to meet up with somebody to shoot up, but you don't have your little kit because they have their little kits and they're all ready to, but yet you have a lime in your pocket. I mean, that's a tough one. That's a tough square to serve.
Scurvy, come on.
And so I just don't think that the lime has anything to do with shooting up.
Yeah. It was probably put there at the restaurant like we discussed.
I think so. Probably somebody got a Corona on their way out the door and tossed the lime and it ended up on her trunk or something like that. So I don't
really feasible.
Yeah. I don't think that she was meeting up with somebody to shoot up drugs. I think that, but I do think
bring the lime.
Yeah. I'll run a lime, even though it's like not the best way to do it or whatever. But I do think that she was probably meeting somebody. Somebody probably said, hey, I'll meet you at the old Dutch burn house. I'll give you this or that, or I have something to tell you, or if something did happen when her and Keallie were shopping, maybe that's what she was said. Maybe that's what she was told is, hey, after work tonight, meet me at the Dutch burn house because I got something really important to tell you.
I can tell you more about your charges that you're trying to get past. And
she didn't have any.
No. The charges she was trying to file on Keallie. I'll help you with that.
I don't think that there's really that much in that because her friends and her family, quite frankly, have kind of alluded to the same fact, and that is that she wasn't going to go through with that. She was most likely going to drop it. I think that's probably pretty true and likely, considering the fact that she wouldn't defend herself because she didn't want her friend group to be upset with her. So I think that if she's not going to defend herself from getting punched in the face, she's probably not going to pursue criminal charges against the girl that punched her in the face. So I think that was going to go away. I don't think that was all that big of a deal, at least on Brianna's side. But who knows? We know that she was running in a rough circle. We know that she was running with some people that were into drugs and dealing drugs and all that kind of stuff. So it's very possible that they could have said, hey, I've got some crack. I'm going to spot you, or, or maybe it was a marijuana deal. Very possible that she was, wanting some marijuana. And they said, yeah, I've got some. I'll just meet you at the Dutch burn house and we can, settle up there. And who knows? I'm just pulling shit out of my ass. But I do think that somebody said, let's meet at the Dutch burn house. And I said it for a couple of reasons. One, there is the theory out there that somebody was in the back of her car when she left from the Black Lantern Inn. Somebody was in the back of her car and they like sprung out of the back and, whatever. Is that possible? Sure. It's 100% possible. We know that her car was broken into a couple times at KJ's Diner pretty quickly before this happened. Like within the month preceding her disappearance, her car had been broken into a couple times. So, and from what I understand, she didn't even lock it. And I don't even think that you needed a key to start it. I've heard that reported multiple different times, gotcha. Which those old, I've realized it wasn't a Chevy, but it was a Chevy product. Mm-hmm. Those old Chevys, a lot of the time the ignition would break and you could just turn it and start them without the key. So that really fits with what I know about that model of a Chevy product. Yeah. So it's very possible. So could somebody have been in the backseat of that car? Yes, but a couple things. One, if they are in the back of that car, they have to have a partner, because who's going to freaking kidnap somebody and run them off the road in the middle of freaking nowhere and then hike out with them? Yeah. That makes no sense. Yeah. So you'd have to have somebody that was waiting for you at the place. But the biggest hang up that I have with that is, one, maybe Brianna didn't check her back seat, but I know a lot of people that do, and it's a really risky way to attempt to kidnap somebody, because if they just happen to peer into the back seat before they get in, you're busted. Yeah. And then two, we have pictures of the back seat of that car. I don't know if you remember when we were looking at them. The back seat, we have a beer bottle that is on the back seat. Pretty uncomfortable to lay on a beer bottle. I've done it. Yeah. Typically, you get it out from under you pretty quickly because it's not comfortable. Yeah. Or you're on the floor. But the problem is, on the floor, we have all those cases of food.
Yeah, random.
Right. Mm-hmm. And they weren't like all crumpled and destroyed, at least from the picture that I seen. Right. They look intact. They look like they were just set back there. Mm-hmm. And you're not laying on cases of food without it being noticeable. Yeah. And then you've got other shit. You've got like the ice scraper and the CD player, which were on the floor behind the passenger seat. That's not disturbed. I mean, if it would have been a clean, pristine back seat, nothing on the floor, possible. Right. If somebody was laying back there with all that shit back there, it should have been disturbed.
And loud.
Yeah. And I mean, you should be able to see indications of it. You've got like 3 or 4 different cases of food that are kind of stacked up on each other. Some of those are going to get crushed and bent and whatever with somebody laying on them. The CD player is probably going to get broken under their feet. There's no way they're going to be laying on a beer bottle. It would have been moved off the seat. So it just doesn't make any sense to me. I think it's a crazy theory. I just don't buy it. And then you have the next theory, which is somebody ran her off the road. Okay, well, it's possible, but usually if one car's running another car off the road, those, like when cars argue, they leave a mark, right? Yeah. Like there's going to be some fresh dents and scratches and stuff. Like
there's skid marks or something. Was there skid marks?
Well, if Deputy Dipshit
forgot
taking pictures, we could say for sure, but the indications are there was not skid marks on the pavement. It sounds like there may have been some tire tracks in the dirt and the grass, but I didn't read anywhere where there was skid marks on the pavement, and unfortunately the dipshit never investigated it at all, so maybe or maybe not. But we do know that, her car was a beat up old car. Mm-hmm. But her family said that all of the dents and scratches and stuff had been there. Nothing was new. And so how likely is it that somebody runs somebody else off the road and there's no damage to the vehicle? Yeah. I just find it extremely unlikely. And, you know, I realize that like Hollywood makes it look super easy to do, and that it always works out flawlessly, but it's a terrible plan. It's a terrible way to kidnap somebody.
Yeah.
To plan on running them off the road.
That's messy as hell.
It's messy as hell, and there's 100,000 different things that can go wrong. And most of them include whoever you're trying to run off the road getting past you and just driving on. Or going to a police station.
You're driving into you.
Yeah, but, you know, I mean, it's very difficult. If you doubt me, watch a few police chases where these guys are trained to run people off the road, and they'll chase them for a long time, and sometimes try multiple times to like do the pit maneuver and get them to crash, and they have to try it multiple times because it fails multiple times. It's very hard, and to do it without denting the car, without leaving any marks. You know, you would expect to see, and again, Deputy Dipshit didn't really investigate, but, you know, it was soon enough after that the Vermont State Police was at the scene doing a search and all that, that if there would have been like broken brake lights from a car that, or, you know, or headlights or whatever from the car that was trying to run around, they probably would have found that.
Yeah.
You know, I just think, I just don't buy that at all. So in trying to figure out, okay, how could she get there? How could they get her to stop? The only thing I can come up with that isn't right out of, you know, Fast and Furious or something is really the most logical and the simplest. And, you know, Occam's razor, all of the things being equal, the simplest answer is probably the right one. Is, hey, I'll meet you at the Dutch Burn House for whatever. We could guess all day and night about what they were going to meet for, but I think that that's by far the most likely scenario. So I think it had to have been somebody that she knew and somebody that she, you know, trusted well enough to meet them in, well, essentially the middle of nowhere in the middle of in the night. And so does Keallie Lacross fit that?
Right.
Because I know of somebody that just freaking broke my nose and gave me a concussion, essentially beat the piss out of me, said, hey, I want to meet you on a back road, or, you know, on this secluded stretch of road at this deserted house in the middle of the night.
That ain't happening.
Hell no. I'd be like, oh, yeah, you can kiss my ass.
Yeah, I'll meet you there.
If you want to talk to me, you can come to the restaurant and talk to me. You can come, I'll meet you at freaking Walmart, you know? We're going to meet somewhere where it's public and you're not going to beat the piss out of me.
Yeah.
So I don't think that Keallie fits that. Now, Michael Stebbins, could he? You know, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. But you could probably go through her list of friends and pick out a whole shit ton of them.
Probably.
That fit. But I think it behooves us to look into Keallie Lacross a little bit, because this isn't the only time that she was ever in trouble. So
you gonna break her down for us?
Yeah, as best I can. I mean, this story or this case is really hard to do, but so essentially I couldn't find anything out about her childhood, like her home life, how she grew up or anything. I do know that she lived in the area and she attended Enosburg Falls High School with Brianna once Brianna had moved over. Her criminal record seems to start with that assault on February 27th, on or around February 27th, which we've already talked about. And then, but nothing ever came of it. Like we said, the charges were dropped. But then in April of 2012, which is quite a bit after that.
Yeah.
So it kind of indicates to me that, well, she didn't steer a very straight ship after the whole Brianna Maitland thing, because on April the 15th, 2012, Keallie was 21 and was arrested for a home invasion in Montgomery, Vermont. And she was a part of a group that entered a house at 2 a.m. And then that led to an argument with the homeowner, who I think was a guy by the name of Dustin Burns, who was 29 at the time. And somehow Keallie gets into a struggle with Samantha Thompson. And I don't know if she's like a girlfriend or what. There's a princess.
That's a new name.
Ish. Yeah, it's the only time that this name will come up. But Samantha Thompson's 44. Dustin Burns is apparently 29 at the time. And Keallie Lacross is 21. So I don't know how all these people fit together. There wasn't anything I could really find to explain it, but
interesting.
Be that here or there, Samantha Thompson and Keallie Lacross end up getting into a physical confrontation, and Lacrosse bites Samantha Thompson's leg. So
it's supposed to be funny, but it sounded funny.
Yeah. So then Keallie is charged with burglary and simple assault and was arrested by the Vermont State Police and processed at the St. Albans Barracks. And so from what I could gather, the group that entered the house included Trevor Lacrosse, which I think is Keallie's brother. And he was sought, but I couldn't find that he was ever arrested, and I couldn't find any motive as to why they went into this house. So it might be some kind of personal deal, or it definitely could be drug related, because we know that Keallie was involved in the drug scene at that time. And then I couldn't find really anything about the specifics of the sentencing in that case, what happened to her. So I'm guessing that maybe there was a plea deal worked out. And, as young as she was, and really from what I could gather, pretty much had a clean record, unless there's shit that I don't know about. But the charges with Brianna wouldn't have been on her record. I mean, if the cop looks it up, they could have probably seen that she was suspected, but without being found guilty or anything, that doesn't apply. So essentially, she has a clean record at this point. She's 21 years old. I could easily see a DA working out some kind of a plea deal where maybe these charges get expunged if you complete XYZ, keep your nose clean, stay out of trouble, which she doesn't do. Because,
spoiler,
on November the 17th, 2013, so the next year, Keallie is arrested by the St. Albans Police Department after driving erratically on Bronson Road in Richford, Vermont. She accelerated away at high speed, which makes me think that she was considering running. Never a good idea. And was stopped near Little County Road, and she failed roadside sobriety test, and her infant child was in the car with her. So she was charged with driving under the influence with a blood alcohol content of 0.156.
Reckless endangerment.
And cruelty to children for endangering a child under the age of 10. Processed at St. Albans Police Station and released on her own recognizance. And I don't know what the outcome of that was either, because you can't find shit out about any of the people in this case. So Reddit threads do suggest that Keallie was involved in, quote, a lot of petty crimes in the area, along with distributing drugs. That's a Reddit post. Is it true? Maybe. I could see it very well might be. I mean, she's involved in home invasions, so
yeah,
petty shit. I mean, that's a big, big step. A home invasion is kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
So, but whether it was somebody that she knew or anything, I just have no freaking clue. And then I couldn't find any of arrests by her after the 2012 home invasion deal, and then the endangerment of children and stuff like that. My honest to God hope is, I mean, she's obviously a mother. She had her infant baby in the car. I hope that she got her shit straight and realized that she needed to be a mother and has focused on that and maybe cleaned her act up. But I don't know. I don't know what has happened with her. I don't know where she's at now, but I couldn't find any additional charges that came after that. And then it's just, when you're reading on Reddit that, she's involved in all kinds of shit, well, that's all fine and good, but really it's nothing more than just a rumor, because there's nothing that Lacrosse did. And Keallie later said, and I think it was in an interview, she said that Nathaniel Jackson, piece of shit number 2, threatened her and her friends sometime after Brianna's disappearance and said, "I'll have you all effing missing." And so that suggests that there was some drug scene tensions, and it may or may not implicate Jackson.
Yeah.
And, I heard several different things where him or dipshit number 1, piece of shit number 1, dipshit number 1, asshat number, whatever we want to call him, Ramon Ryans made maybe some similar comments and stuff. And, sometimes that means something and other times it doesn't mean shit.
Yeah.
I think with Jorge Soto, Joker, shithead number 3, that it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
He flat come out and said that he murdered Brianna.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like he would have he had the opportunity, I guess, like I said last week, if he got out of jail and ran to Montgomery as fast as his little legs would carry him, but why?
Yeah.
And the police don't think that he was involved. He was just trying to sound tough. It sounds to me like, with this comment from Nathaniel Jackson, it could mean something, and it could just be him playing tough guy and doing the same thing. And this is something that happens in that world.
Yeah. It's so weird.
Is these people try to intimidate each other by taking credit for shit that they had nothing to do with. Am I saying that he had nothing to do with it? No.
Right.
If you're asking me between Keallie Lacrosse and Nathaniel Jackson, I think Nathaniel Jackson is a way better suspect than Keallie Lacrosse is for a myriad of different reasons. So he's definitely on my suspect list. But again, he's been thoroughly investigated by the Vermont State Police, by the FBI, but I've seen a lot of cases involving shitheads like these two morons where they get away with it for a long time and then information drops. So I'm definitely not saying that they're cleared, and not to make it like a racial thing or anything, but from what I understand, Ramon Ryans and Nathaniel Jackson were like the only 2 black guys in the area at the time. I would be very, very interested to know these witnesses that claim that they saw somebody walk around the front of that truck, or that car, if the person they saw was black or white. That would be very interesting to know, because if they say it was a black person, it really drives these 2 up on the suspect list. Not because they're black, but because they're black, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, because they would have been recognized more accurately.
Right, because there's just not a lot of racial diversity in this area. You could say the same thing about a lot of places in Wyoming. If you see a black person committing a crime, there's probably only 1 or 2 black people that live in the town. Yeah. In a lot of towns in Wyoming. So,
depending on the time of year, but yeah.
Yeah. And so it's not that difficult, where if you're talking about, inner city New York or something like that, where it's a lot more racially diverse than saying that it was a black person or a white person or a Hispanic person or whatever, doesn't help near as much because there's just a lot more of all the different races there. Yeah. So, but I don't know who they've talked to the police. They've told their story to the police. They've told their story to the investigators. So without a doubt, they've described the person as accurately as they can 21 years after the fact. So at least the people that need to know would know that. That's not me.
Yeah.
I'd like to know, but... So to sum it all up, when it comes to Keallie Lacrosse, I have a really hard time jumping to she killed Brianna. I'm not going to say that it's not impossible, but from what I have been able to gather, we're talking about a couple of high school age girls. Whether they're in high school or not, it's irrelevant.
Right.
They're both like 17. I'm not entirely sure if Keallie was 17 or 18, but I think they were both 17 at the time. And so I find it very unlikely that that's going to end in murder, and then the murderer is going to then just move on and apparently stay out of trouble after her initial screw ups. Could it be possible? Well, yeah, it could be. But usually, somebody that's willing to go to that extreme over something that minor it's going to show up in their life later on. And maybe it has, because I can't find shit about nobody. But one good thing about Reddit and like Facebook and that kind of stuff is a lot of the times you do get like local people that do have knowledge. And I think that, whoever posted that she was involved in petty crimes and shit like that and selling drugs or whatever they said in the area, there's probably some truth to that. We know that she was running with drug dealers. We know that she was kind of in that lifestyle. So, and then, when you get to somebody like Ellen Ducharme, who beat Legia Collins to death with a baseball bat, then you're like, wow, this is a rough group. Well, it is, but a 17-year-old that's beginning to experiment with crack cocaine, and I think Ellen Ducharme was like 40 or something at the time. So you're talking about a 40-year-old that is deeply into their addiction. There's worlds of difference between those two people and the lengths they'll be willing to go and the shit that they're willing to do. I find it hard to believe, with the information that I've been able to find, that Keallie would have jumped to murder over this relationship.
Right.
And I couple that also with her being willing to, she's been on a couple of different podcasts. She's given interviews, usually not something that somebody's willing to do unless they're an absolute narcissistic freaking psychopath. And then the fact that she doesn't seem to have gotten into a whole lot of trouble since all of this shit went down. It's a big, big leap for me to say that she's the one. So I did bring up Aaron Pendergrass, and I saw him describe the same, pretty much the same thing. It almost seems to me like every piece of shit that was in the area during this period of time is a suspect because they were a piece of shit in the area at this time. We do know that he was operating in Franklin County, in the Franklin County drug scene, with Ryans and Jackson in Brianna's loose social circle. But we have nothing but speculation that they ever even knew each other. They might have, but it's very likely that they didn't. It also seems to me like Pendergrass might have been a little bit higher up on the scale or whatever, because he was listed in like the news reports and stuff as like the drug kingpin, the major player in this. And so I don't know if this piece of shit is going to these parties that Ryans and Jackson are having at their houses and whatnot. I just don't know. But I couldn't find anything that suggests that he should be tied in or that he should be discounted. I don't know. I saw a lot of online speculation that Keallie Lacross had ties to Pendergrass, possibly as an associate, a minor player in his drug network, but nothing more than that. Nothing more than Reddit threads and innuendo. So it's impossible to say whether it's true or if it's just online speculation. And then There is online speculation as well that Pendergrass is a potential person of interest due to his status as a major drug dealer and the possible overlap with Brianna's social circle. Some speculate that he could have had knowledge of her or some kind of involvement in her disappearance. We know that it was claimed by an informant. I don't know who this person is, but this person claimed that I think like 3 to 4 people were involved. Jackson and Ryan's were both listed as the people involved, and they were standing on the road with a shotgun, I think, and made her pull over, and that they kidnapped her, and that's how they, got her kidnapped and everything. This is a person that apparently knows all of them and has knowledge of it. That theory is, I guess, possible. But if you're planning this out, you put yourself in their shoes for a second, and you're planning out how you're going to kidnap this girl that's driving down the road, and I don't know, at 30, 40 miles an hour, I'm guessing, there is a pretty decent curve right around the Dutchburn property. So I can't imagine she was going all that fast, maybe 50. And you're putting all the eggs in the basket that you're standing in the road with a shotgun and she's going to pull over for you.
Yeah.
I find it very unlikely. Now, if it was like an ambush thing where they were all along the side of the road and she drove by, they opened fire and killed her. Okay.
But it would be on the car.
Well, yeah, there would be evidence of it. That definitely didn't happen. But is all I'm saying is, if you're planning out a hit.
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe that one would make some sense. Not a whole hell of a lot, but maybe some more sense. But putting your eggs in the basket that she's going to pull that car over for you?
Yeah.
Why?
It's pretty daring.
Well, it's pretty daring and completely unnecessary. You're an associate of hers. I'm sure that you could make a call and be like, hey, we really need to talk to you. Stop by her work. Hey, we really need to talk to you. We know that they partied together. They ran in the same circles.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything that would make me believe that she had a falling out with them because of the whole Keallie Lacross thing. That seemed to be the thing in her life that was causing, a falling out with her friends and stuff. But why the hell wouldn't Ryans and Jackson give 2 shits about that?
True.
So I have no reason to believe that they couldn't have just been like, hey, Brianna, we really need to talk to you, or I need to talk to you. Swing by the Dutchburn place. Why are they going to stand in the middle of a road with a shotgun? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And then he goes on to say that the really tall guy, which I don't know who the hell that is. The private investigators do, but they've never named the really tall guy. It's apparently neither Ryan's or Jackson.
Okay.
So it could be Pendergrass. I don't know. Because they've never said the name. But the really tall guy got into the driver's seat and wasn't able to hit the brake because he was too tall. And he ran into the barn, and then they were just like, screw it, let's leave the car, and they all take off with her. Is it possible? I guess so, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, I'm a pretty tall dude, and I've gotten into vehicles before where I didn't move the seat back because I was just going to move it, a few feet or something. It's not worth moving the seat back, or I'm getting into somebody else's vehicle to move it, and I don't want to screw their seat settings up, so I'll just deal with it for 100 yards or whatever. I've never been in a situation, of course I've never been involved in a kidnapping, so maybe
it's good to know.
Maybe the adrenaline was pumping a little bit more, but still I find it very hard to believe that that's going to cause you to run into the barn. Like, yeah, it makes like shifting difficult and it makes steering difficult. It doesn't really make hitting the pedals difficult.
True.
Like if you're 4'2" and the seat's all the way back, that makes reaching the brake a lot more difficult. Yeah. But if you're 6'3" and the seat's all the way forward, I could see how you couldn't steer that easy, but I don't understand how you could not be able to get your foot on the brake. I don't know. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't think that there's anything to it.
Right.
And this is just me guessing from the sidelines. I have no clue, but the story sounds just fishy as shit to me. It just sounds like somebody who watched a few too many movies and is like, that's how they did it. That's how kidnappings happen.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, probably 9 times out of 10, and if you're standing in the middle of the road with a shotgun, somebody's going to drive your ass over before they stop.
True.
They're going to hit the gas and be like, oh, hell.
My weapon's bigger than yours.
They're just going to panic, and their natural reaction is to push the gas. I mean, we saw it during the summer of hell of 2020 when we had all the protests or riots or whatever you want to call it. And people were in interstates and the drivers would get scared and hit the gas. And I mean, that is the natural reaction to a situation like that. So I don't know. I just think that theory is bullshit. I don't put a lot of stock in it, and I don't see a reason for it because they knew the girl. They had connections for sure. Even if they had a falling out with her, they definitely have connections to other people that could get her to meet them at a certain place. I'm not saying that they're going to call up her friend and say, hey, I want to kill your friend. Help me set this up. But, they could easily be like, I really need to talk to Brianna, and, she's avoiding me or whatever. Could you just invite her over or whatever? There's a million different things that they could have done, in my opinion. And, granted, we're not kidnappers or killers or anything, but if you have a friend that you really need to talk to and, put yourself in the day before cell phones. We know that Brianna didn't have a cell phone, but is it more or less likely that you're going to just swing by her work or swing by that place she's staying at and say, hey, let's meet up. I got something I need to talk to you about. Or are you going to stand in the road with a shotgun? And that's really what we're talking about.
Yeah. These kids, you don't know.
Well, this is true, but I find it just unbelievable, frankly. I can't bring myself to that place where this would make any logical sense. So, although I do not claim to have a clue what happened and who, and we've got a couple more episodes where we'll be talking about some other things and maybe some other theories and whatnot. The conclusion that I have come to with the digging into all this that I've done and everything is I find it very unlikely that somebody was hiding in the backseat of her car. I find it very unlikely that somebody ran her off the road. I find it extremely unlikely that a group of men were standing in the road with a shotgun. I think that probably, like I said, the most likely scenario is somebody said, hey, let's meet up at the Dutchburn place. And one more possible scenario, which I think is less likely but more plausible than the rest of those, is somebody grabbed her when she left the Black Lantern.
Mm-hmm.
And said, get in your car, you're coming with me. But I also saw a report that a woman that lived right there watched Brianna get into her car and drive away. So that kind of shoots that theory all to hell. Yeah. If that's true, then...
If it wasn't somebody that looked like Brianna.
Well, her car was pretty distinctive. And we're talking about a pretty small restaurant on a winter night.
Well, I mean, it could have been her car still, but somebody who looks like her.
Oh, yeah, but she would have had to have, if somebody was impersonating her, they would have had to have made her disappear somehow before she got out of work, but before she got to her car. Okay. So I think that's pretty unlikely because this person from what I understood, had a view of the whole parking lot. And if you look at the parking lot of the Black Lantern, it's surrounded by houses. So it's probably somebody sitting on their porch, or somebody that was like looking out their window. So I think that it's pretty damn likely that she got into her car alone. I don't believe there was anybody in the back seat. I think that she went and she met somebody. Now, you have the whole shopping trip thing, and we don't really know. We know that Bruce doesn't put a lot of stock in it. Doesn't sound like the private investigators put a lot of stock into it. But her mom, Keallie, at least at one point, did put a lot of stock into it. And so it's possible that somebody could have seen her and said, hey, we need to talk. We got something serious to talk about. Meet me at the Dutch barn tonight after work.
Right.
Oh,
yeah, that is really small.
You're looking at a picture of the Black Lantern. Yeah, it's a tiny little parking lot beside a tiny little building. The Black Lantern is just not very big.
No.
And then you've got houses kind of all the way around it. You could see where, somebody could easily see somebody getting into a car. It's a terrible place to stage a kidnapping.
Yeah.
Because you have no clue which one of those neighbors may or may not be looking out the window at the same time. So is it possible that somebody got into her car? It is possible. I just think it's very unlikely. And, I can easily, we have this new witness, or these new witnesses that have come forward who have seen this gray or silver Honda in the area. And I kind of described what they had witnessed, but that would fit with somebody meeting up with her. One person gets out of the car, or maybe even drops them off, and they just wait there for a minute for her to get there, and they're standing there. Or they get out of the car and get into Brianna's car, and then the other car takes off, circles back around to pick them back up or whatever. That would explain to me why both of the doors would be open, which was reported by a couple of different witnesses, is that the passenger and the driver's side front doors were both open. So
true.
In my mind, one of two things had to have happened. Either one, somebody tried to get her from the passenger side and she opened the driver's side to try to escape. Two, they tried to get her through the driver's side and she tried to get out the passenger side. Both of those, in my mind, seem a little less likely. I don't know why, if you're going to go kidnap somebody, you would go through the passenger side. Seems to me like you would try to get them through the driver's side.
Unless you, like you said, it was two.
Unless it was two people, right.
Yeah.
But if you get out of the car and jump in with her because it's a prearranged meeting, then it makes all kinds of sense why you have both doors opened.
Definitely, yeah.
And, maybe then you have two people involved. Once the car ends up backed into the barn, the second person opens the driver's door and drags her out, at which time the necklace breaks and the shit gets scattered all over the place. And the other guy gets out of the passenger side and comes around to help. That makes a lot of sense to me. I can see that playing out. And I don't run into anything that doesn't really fit or doesn't really make sense.
Okay.
When I talk about somebody opening the passenger side to grab somebody on the driver's side, to me, that doesn't make sense. Because I think you're going to go to the place where you can get to them the fastest, which is going to be the driver's door. Maybe have them roll down the window or something like that, right. And you grab them through the window or open the door and grab them. I don't know why you would go to the passenger seat. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense to me that in 8-degree weather, you're going to lay down in the back seat of the car and wait for who knows how freaking long, because she was a dishwasher.
Yeah.
So you're out there freezing your ass off. What? You hope that she saves you from hypothermia when she finally gets in the car? It just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense that they drive her off the road. It doesn't make sense that they stand in the road with the shotgun. This makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
We meet who it is. I don't freaking know who it is.
Right.
I wish I did, but I'm just saying that when I look at this theory, it makes sense. But that also tells me, in my personal opinion, that throws out, and we will be talking about the serial killer theory because it's in this one too. It's in all of them, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but that'll be next episode as we'll kind of lightly touch on that. And you heard my theories on the Maura Murray case, and I thought that was extraordinarily unlikely that a serial killer would just happen upon her. It's even less likely in Brianna's case because, in my opinion, there's no possible way that Brianna ended up into that barn as an accident. I've been to way too many car crashes. You can just kind of look at it and say, well, there's no way. Physics doesn't work that way. Her tires are turned completely the opposite direction and you would have to be hauling ass and lose it and spin all the way around like 360 degrees and then come into that barn with your ass end leading into that barn. That didn't happen. There are all kinds of tracks on the ground. The only way that she ended up there is it backed into there. So she had to have stopped into that little parking area that I was talking about. Because
if it was a chase, there would have done more damage to the barn, and I would think more of the car would be in the barn.
Well, yeah, and then it would have, first of all, it wouldn't have gone ass end into that barn. It would have gone forward.
If it spun out and went ass end in, it still would have went in further in my eyes.
Well, it would have gone in further, but also physics can't be discounted. Like, a vehicle in motion is going to follow a prescribed path. Like, that's how accident reconstructionists can work. They can figure it out because you know that a vehicle that's moving at this speed, going this direction. So you got to keep in mind that she was driving from the Black Lantern. She had to have driven past it. So her car would have been going the same direction that it ended up. So she would have had to have spun, like I said, a complete 360-degree turn and somehow defied physics because she would have had to have somehow traveled backwards instead of forwards. I've been to a lot of accidents where people spin 360 degrees, but they continue on this with the same momentum. They're still moving in the same direction.
Right.
Like their collar's not pointed in the same direction, but
they're still moving in the same direction.
So she would have ended up probably in the field after rolling multiple times.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
She wouldn't have been able to, the car wouldn't have changed direction and come backwards and ended up into the barn. The only way that could have possibly happened is she would have had to have turned around and then been driving back towards the Black Lantern and lost it and spun into the barn. But even still, that's really difficult. I suppose maybe it would be possible coming that direction, but it's still going to be It's going to be impossible without leaving tracks, skid tracks across the grass. And it's still a very unlikely way to crash. But going with the direction of travel that she had, it's not possible. It cannot happen. The accident, it couldn't have been accidental. In that way, it couldn't have been accidental of her driving down the road, losing it, and ending up defying physics. But if she pulled off the road, she would have been facing still the direction that she was going. She panics, slams it into reverse, and hits the gas. Well, then that makes all kinds of sense. It all fits. I think that's exactly what happened. That's how her car ended up in that barn. I think it's the only way her car could have ended up in the barn.
Okay.
I'm not going to presume to say that definitely she panicked and threw it into reverse. Who the hell knows? Maybe somebody reached in and was going to try to slam it into park and accidentally slammed it into reverse and it ended up going backwards, or who knows? Maybe somebody did get into it, that super tall guy, and he put it in reverse. But I just mean the physics of the car moving, it had to have been in reverse when it hit that barn. I don't see any other way. So that tells me that it was not some random encounter. It was not some Israel Keys or some other serial killer.
Yeah.
Because we know that Maura had an accident. I think that we can say that she had an accident, and her car was disabled due to that accident. Therefore, she got out of the car and was basically stuck on the side of the road. That opens the door of possibilities a whole lot wider for somebody to Israel Keys or somebody like that to happen upon her. You know that I don't believe that. I think I made that very clear. But in that case, it's more possible. In Brianna's case, it's not possible at all, in my opinion. They would have had to have somehow got her backed into the barn, and I don't know how a stranger can do that. Or she met somebody, they threatened her, she panicked, backed into the barn, then that person takes off, and an Israel Keys then happens upon her?
Oh, the luck.
Yeah. So I think it had to have been somebody that she knew. I'm absolutely convinced of that. So I don't know that we've really answered any questions as far as, Keallie Lacross is concerned. I think that she was maybe a bad egg in that age group. When she was that age during that period of time, I think that she was probably a bad egg. I have no clue where she's at now, and I don't know if she's a bad egg now, but I do know that every bad egg in high school doesn't go on to kill somebody or something like that. And I also know, and I said this earlier, I don't mean to just repeat myself, but I also know that getting in a fight with somebody doesn't mean that you wish them dead or that you're going to have a role in their death or disappearance.
Yeah.
I don't think that she can be ruled out. I don't think that Michael Stebbins can be ruled out. I don't think that James Robitaille can be ruled out. And I think there's a good chance that James Robitaille died with more information than he ever shared. I think that he maybe knew more than what he ever said. I think it's probably likely that somebody in this group knows what happened.
Yeah.
Whether they participated in it or not, I think that they very well might know
whether
what happened.
Talk about it or not. Well, some of them can't anymore, but
well, like he's dead. From what I understand, as sad and tragic as it is, there's multiple people from her social group that either now are dead because of drugs or they're complete mess because of drugs, so they're not even functioning.
Guilt will make you take more drugs.
It will, and being a druggie will also make you take more drugs, so it's really hard to say which is which. We don't really know. We know that James Robitaille gave multiple different stories. We've talked about that before, and I don't know what to think about the guy. He died on July 3rd, 2019 in a car wreck. He was 33. And so any secrets that he may have had went to the grave with him. Sadly, he was a father, from what I understand, at that time. So his kids are left without a dad.
Yeah.
And, we know that he was like a crack user and stuff like that in 2004. I have no idea how he was by the time he died in 33. And I have a really hard time just labeling all of these people that did drugs as pieces of shit, because I just don't think that's the case. I think you have a group of kids that were in a rural setting, like we talked about last week, without a lot to do. They get these two pieces of shit, who I definitely think are pieces of shit and will call them pieces of shit, come up from New York and start peddling drugs and get these kids addicted to it. And then all of this freaking chaos and heartbreak and everything that comes from that. But I cannot say every one of these kids that got hooked on drugs is a piece of shit. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know them. And this is the hardest case that I've said it at the beginning, but I'm just going to circle around and say it again. It's the hardest case I've ever researched because I'm having a really hard time really coming down on who I think did this, or I don't know. What are your thoughts? I mean, now we've talked about a whole nother we've thrown a whole bunch more people and a whole lot more chaos into this. And are you feeling like you've had any of your questions answered?
Not really. I don't know if I can nail down any definite questions. I agree with the fact that I feel like it's somebody she knew because it's too clean.
I think so too.
It's way too clean. I mean, apart from that, I don't.
The theory is out there that it could have potentially been somebody that was enamored with her, who had met her at the restaurant and become enamored with her and ended up, kidnapping her and killing her. And, I've thought a lot about that. And there's a lot of cases out there that you can research that deal with stalking behavior. And while anything is possible, you definitely cannot say, well, that's not possible because anything's possible.
Yeah.
But, 9 times out of 10 with those cases, the person attempts contact multiple times beforehand, and then there usually is some weird, demented, stalkerish courtship ritual.
Oh,
sending them flowers, getting them,
yes,
trying to catch their eye. This usually goes on for a period of time, more than days. Usually they can go on for months or even years before that person finally, builds up the guts or whatever you want to say to act on it in a physical way by kidnapping that person or whatever. And it can.
By then they already think they are in a relationship.
Right. And it can definitely end that way because there's case after case after case of that happening. But we got to keep in mind that she had only worked at the Black Lantern for a short period of time and only worked a few shifts and was a dishwasher.
Well, what about at the other place? Because
she was brand new there.
Okay.
They
would follow you. So
she was even newer at KJ's Diner.
Okay.
And so KJ's Diner would have put her out in the public more because she was going to be a server at KJ's Diner, from what I understand, and a dishwasher at the Black Lantern Inn. And is it possible? Freaking anything's possible. And, especially in a small place, and the Black Lantern Inn is a small place. I've been in those kind of places before, lots of times.
Maybe it was somebody she went to school with who was just
developed some
sad she left. Yeah,
could have been, but again, the lack of any confirmed stalkery behavior doesn't rule that out for sure. But it does put a big question mark in my mind because you usually get that. Usually there's an attempt at.
She would have known.
Yeah. Usually they think they're in a relationship, and so they leave love letters and you do grandiose shit, leave freaking flowers all over your lawn, which was a case that I was looking into not too long ago where this woman come home and there was like vases of flowers all over her lawn and leading up to her house and, shit like that, and give them gifts and try to court them.
Right.
Or another one that I was just looking into not too long ago was very similar to this. The girl was a waitress. It was in the 70s. And this douchebag creep just made all kinds of just crude and crass comments to all the waitresses in the place. And then he finally kidnapped her and murdered her. But again, it had gone on for a significant length of time.
Yeah.
And there was a buildup to that.
Enough for people to know this guy's not quite right.
Yeah, enough like all the waitresses were like, oh, it's him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to wait on him. Will you take him this time? Like, they all hated him.
Rock, paper, scissors for who has to.
Disgusting freaking creep. And they all knew he was a creep and they talked about it. And I'm not saying that it's impossible for this to develop silently and that nobody would ever know, because shit happens.
It's just so unlikely.
It's very, I think it's very unlikely. And when you go through all of these different scenarios and all the different things, the only one that I can come back to and just say consistently, it makes a ton of sense, is it was somebody she knew that she trusted enough to meet with for whatever reason. Who that is,
a pullover for, or
right.
Yeah.
Who that is, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Could it be the two shitheads from New York? Yep. Could it be, James Robitaille? Yep. Could it be, I mean, I can just keep going on. I can go all back through all the names we've talked about, and to pretty much every one of those names, I could say,
it could kind of also be Keallie if Brianna was hoping they could mend things because she didn't want
it's possible
to piss off the circle.
And then I'm going to throw another big freaking Rich into this whole mess.
Why don't you?
Because the fact of the matter is human lives are unbelievably complex. And come to find out, Brianna was molested when she was 13 by like an 18, 19-year-old guy. And
someone she knew?
Yeah, it was like a neighbor.
Okay.
And I just learned that just the other day, but...
So do we think this guy was a stalker, possibly?
I don't know. I don't know a damn thing about him. Nothing. All I know is I was listening to an interview with Bruce, and he said that was a big part of the reason that they ended up moving out of the area, because he couldn't stand to see that piece of shit. And I can completely understand that. I would be the same way.
Yeah.
And I don't throw that out to say that he is a suspect in her disappearance, because I don't know a thing about him. I don't even know if he would be a viable suspect if he was even in the area at the time or anything like that. But I throw that out there to say that we encounter all kinds of people. And could it have been like a neighbor or like an older guy in town that developed some sort of a fixation on her or something, but was in a position of trust where if they said, hey, pull over or whatever, could have that happened? Yeah. I mean, it could have. I don't know. My point in saying that isn't to make it even more freaking cloudy, although I don't know how to get more cloudy, but the point is, it might not even be anybody that we've talked about. I said this last episode, it could be Bob. And once it's finally figured out, if it ever is, once we finally know, everybody's going to be like,
Bob?
Who's Bob?
Yeah.
And it's not even going to fit.
Yeah.
But it's possible. And you hear those stories a lot. I mean, chances are, just statistically speaking, chances are it's somebody that we've talked about that knows her. One of her friends. I think that's, and quote unquote friends. And I don't mean female or male. I don't know. I think it's more likely than not that it's a guy. Does that mean that it definitely is? Of course not. We know that women commit murders too. Statistically, when a girl goes missing, statistically, it's more common that it's a guy that's involved. What the motive is, we have no freaking clue. I don't even know. I'm having a terrible hard time even coming up with a viable motive. Did she see something in the drug scene that she wasn't supposed to see? It's possible.
That one's highest up on mine. Not by a whole lot, but it's highest up on mine.
It is mine too. I think that, and we discussed it last week, so you know that I went through all the math and probably bored the shit out of everybody with it. But although being involved in the drug scene does raise the likelihood that you could be a victim of violent crime, it's not like a 1 + 1 = 2 type of situation.
It's not a definite.
But I think in this particular instance, when you're running with pieces of shit, the likelihood that you're going to be a victim of something terrible goes up significantly. And I've seen nothing that makes me think that Ramon Ryans and Nathaniel Jackson weren't pieces of shit. I think they were terrible human beings. And so, does that mean they're guilty? No. But I think they ran with terrible human beings. They were involved in some horrific shit. And I think that it's very likely that somewhere in that circle, be it Ryans and Jackson or somebody in their circle, could very well know. And it's also very possible that either Ryans or Jackson had connections enough that they could say, hey, this girl needs to go away. I'm going to be gone. You need to make her go away. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And in that situation, it again could be as easy as, hey, I'm going to be out of town, but, I got some pot for you. And my buddy, Joe, he'll meet you at the Dutch Burn House with it.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. We do know that, crack cocaine or not crack cocaine, she's probably smoking on a fairly regular basis. It sounds like she smoked quite often, and knowing regular pot users, they smoke on a pretty regular basis. So I'm sure that buying weed was a pretty common thing for her. It wouldn't have been that crazy, and we're talking weed, so she's probably not even that worried. It's not like it's a big concern. Yeah. So if she needed a quarter or something to get her through the week, I could see her making that phone call and that setting the whole thing up.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we've got a couple more episodes on this before we finish it up, but I firmly believe that when we get to the end of this thing, I'm going to be as confused as I am right now. It's sad and it sucks, but this is a really tough one. There's something about violence between young women that people tend to minimize. Like it's always just high school drama that gets blown out of proportion. But I don't know. What happened between Brianna and Keallie wasn't just like a hallway shove. It was an assault. Brianna ended up with a broken nose, a concussion, and injuries that left her disoriented and vulnerable. And yet, even knowing all that, like I've said, I find it hard to believe that a teenage fight, no matter how violent, is going to escalate to murder. Was Keallie worried about the charges? Maybe. But I don't think enough to kill somebody or to orchestrate a disappearance so clean that it left no trace. And for all her flaws, Keallie Lacross wasn't exactly subtle. She was loud, brash. If this were about revenge or intimidation, I don't think it would have looked like this. I think it would have been visible, messy, loud. Not a vanishing act. I mean, we're talking about somebody that bit somebody on the leg in the middle of a freaking home invasion.
Come on.
With that said, I don't believe Brianna was abducted by a stranger. That theory has always felt wrong. Her car, positioned awkwardly the way that it was, doesn't scream panic or randomness. It suggests purpose. She pulled in there intentionally. The headlights were on, the doors unlocked, paychecks on the seat, her life, everything else, just gone. I think she was meeting someone she knew, someone she didn't fear, at least not enough to avoid. And that changes everything, because when you think about her life at that time, unstable housing, broken friendships, lingering resentment from that fight, a swirl of rumors about drugs and debt, there were a lot of people who knew where Brianna worked, where she slept, what she was going through, and not all of them had her best interest in mind. It's easy to get tunnel vision, to pin it all on one person, Keallie, James, Ryans, or any of them. But real life is way messier than that. Sometimes the obvious suspect isn't the right one. And sometimes the truth is even more unsettling. That the danger wasn't just one person. It was the world that she was trying to survive in. So far, we've looked at her connection to drugs. We've walked through the underworld that she was brushing up against. Now we've peeled back the layer of personal relationships, the trust, the betrayal, and the bruises that may have followed her all the way to that lonely stretch of Route 118. Whatever happened that night wasn't random, and it wasn't faceless. Brianna Maitland knew her killer, and the silence around her case, that tells me someone else does too. There is a photo of Brianna that sticks with me. It was actually taken like the night before she disappeared. It's one of the few that isn't grainy or cropped from high school snapshots. Her eyes are sharp. Her mouth isn't quite smiling, but it's strong. And yet the sense that she's already been through things most people her age couldn't handle, and that she's still standing because of it. That's the Brianna that her friends knew. The Brianna who could throw a punch if she had to. The girl who moved out on her own at 17. Not because she didn't have any options, but because she wanted control over her own life. She was fierce, funny, and grounded in her independence. And like so many young women forced to grow up fast, she was juggling more than anyone should have to. Brianna wasn't perfect, but she wasn't reckless either. She worked 2 jobs, took pride in earning her GED, and even as she drifted between houses and friendships, she kept showing up for work, for her future. That doesn't get talked about enough. In the true crime world, the missing are too often reduced to victims at their last decision. But Brianna's life wasn't defined by one night. It was a slow burn of effort, trying to climb out of instability into something solid, something safe. And she didn't get the chance. She didn't get to face the one that assaulted her in court. She didn't get to outgrow the people and the places that failed her. Whatever happened that night at the Dutchburn farmhouse, Brianna Maitland didn't vanish into thin air. She was taken from a life that she was still building, from a world that didn't always see her clearly, but where she still had people who loved her, a mother who kept every voicemail, a father who never stopped searching, a brother and a best friend who remembered the inside jokes, the tough love, the girl behind the headlines. We owe it to Brianna to remember her not just as a mystery, but as a force, a fighter, a teenager trying to carve out space in a world that gave her too few safety nets. She wasn't a runaway. She wasn't just a party girl. She was a young woman who mattered, and she still does. The deeper that we go into Brianna Maitland's world, the more we see that her disappearance wasn't some random act. It was personal, it had weight, and it likely involved someone that she knew. The fight with Keallie Lacross was ugly, yeah, but it was a teenage fight, not a motive for murder. Still, we can't ignore the atmosphere it created. Brianna was navigating volatile relationships, shifting living situations, and a growing sense of distress. Whether it was fear, pressure, or a simple decision to meet someone that she thought she could trust, that stop at the Dutchburn farmhouse, it wasn't random. It meant something, and that's where everything changes.
What we've uncovered so far points in 2 directions: drug connections and personal conflict. Both sides are messy. Both sides include people who, if not responsible, were at least close enough to know something. In the next episode, we're expanding the scope, serial killer theories, cross-case comparisons, and yes, the Moore Murray connection that's lingered in the background for far too long.
If you believe Brianna's story matters, and we do, there are ways to help. Head to darkdialogue.com to support our work, adopt a victim for deeper case research, or join the Dark Dialogue Collective and help us push for answers.
You can also subscribe on Substack at darkdialogue.substack.com for extended case files, exclusive documents, and the full archive of our investigations. If you're moved to contribute, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/darkdialogue or drop us support on coffee.com/darkdialogue. Every dollar helps us keep asking the hard questions.
And if you know anything about Brianna, about that night, or about who she may have trusted, contact the Vermont State Police at 802-524-5993 or the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI. You can also email us directly at info@darkdialogue.com. An anonymous tip could finally crack this case wide open.
This is about more than one girl. It's about a system that's failed too many. It's about lives interrupted and the silence that follows. Help us break that silence.
Because Brianna Maitland didn't just vanish. Someone made her disappear. And until we know who, we'll keep digging, we'll keep pressing, and we'll keep the dialogue alive.